Geri McCritty here at LCTV, Channel 66, coming all the way from Pava Gallery, 632 North Christian Street. And today we are at LCTV station and you are watching Shining a Light. Today I'm going to be talking about a very important topic that's always been in my heart, which is therapists. Not too many people talk about therapists, in my opinion, and there's so many branches of therapy. Today I have a retired therapist who, I believe, is just such a wonderful person, and I worked with her, and I very much was inspired with the way she worked and her work ethics, which made me believe that it takes a special person to be a therapist. So today I'm pleased to be talking with my good friend, Miss Barb Miller.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Barb.
How are you?
Thank you for being here.
Certainly.
So, Miss Barb, introduce yourself to my viewers.
Okay.
Let them know who you are.
Who I am?
Yes.
I'm Barb Miller. I'm a retired speech and language pathologist, or a speech therapist. Some people, our correct title is speech and language pathologist, but it's a lot easier for children and parents to understand a speech therapist. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in the school they call us a speech teacher, mm-hmm. which we technically are not.
Right.
But that again helps for people to understand what we're doing.
Okay.
I worked for over 44 years. I started in 1979, and I've worked in a variety of settings throughout my career. I've worked in schools. Mm-hmm. I have worked in clinics. I have worked with nursing homes. I have worked with adult mentally challenged individuals. They would come to like a workshop. They would spend the day at a workshop, mm-hmm. and I would come in and work with some of them with speech. I was around when a lot of our institutions, our mental institutions, were going to group homes, and they were being institutionalized, and I worked to train the staff at those group homes as to doing something. I've also worked for a school for the deaf in Delaware.
Yeah.
I think that's those are all the settings.
Okay. Where did you grow up? Was it here in Lancaster?
No, actually, I grew up in York, so just across the river, White Rose City. Sorry, not the Red Rose City, but most of my career working actually was here in Lancaster.
Okay.
I spent most of it over here, and raising my children.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
so what does it take to be a therapist? I mean, I've seen you work, and I think it's so special. And like I said, I always admire that work ethics you have. Where does it come from?
Probably from my parents, my dad, the work ethic. And people that I've admired along the way. I decided to become a speech therapist back when I was in 11th grade. Mm-hmm. I actually, my mother worked as a preschool teacher at Easter Seals at the time in York, and the one of the speech therapists that was there, her name is Darlis. And Darlis, yeah, Darlis Riley, Darlis. Yeah, and I would go and observe her because I had debated about becoming a physical therapist actually when I was in, it's middle school now, but in my time it was junior high, in 8th grade. But my dad felt that I was too small to become a physical therapist. But so I started looking at other things. I come from a medical family. My mother was an RN. My dad was also a nurse, and then he was a nurse anesthetist. Anesthetist. He puts people to sleep. Okay. Same as an anesthesiologist. Only an anesthesiologist is a doctor, but my dad was a nurse, and so I kind of that was sort of like the things trying to decide what to do, and but I observed Darlis at Easter Seals and decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a a speech therapist, and
And
looked into that, and I went to Bloomsburg, which was a state college at the time, is now a university, but because they had a really good speech program
okay.
for that.
So how was that journey for you, becoming that therapist, fitting into that role? What you knew you wanted to do it,
Yeah.
and once you got into it and put your started working towards it, how were some of the challenges in that journey for you? Or what were some of the challenges?
Some of the challenges. Some of the challenges were learning some of the new things. It's not necessarily, at least at that time, wasn't a easy. An easy to career to get into, like in school, like you had to do well, and at Bloomsburg at that time they only took 35 students into that curriculum. So like they you had to go to school for a year and a half in college,
Yeah.
and then you applied and hope that you got accepted
Right.
into the program. There was a lot. I think there are a lot of people that molded me along the way.
Okay.
I was fortunate, I feel, enough that I actually did like a student teaching, like a regular teacher would do,
Okay.
but did it at a variety of places. I worked. I was at Capital Area IU. I was also then in my master's degree, which you have to have to be a speech therapist.
Yeah.
I was over at Reading Hospital and Reading Rehab, so I really got a taste of all the different environments that you could work in. I was also a grad assistant with the one professor, and he worked at a deaf school, or school for the deaf. And so, like, I learned sign language and learned that and stuff. And Darlis was what she always worked with the hearing impaired and deaf population. So I kind of knew some of the sign language from that. But
Nice.
I think just the experiences and the people that you meet, and you kind of learn where your best assets are,
Your
like
strength
where your
is,
strengths
yeah,
and
yeah,
your weaknesses, and then kind of gravitate toward that. Each time when I was first married, each time we would move, I was fortunate enough, I had a speech job every time, but it was always in a different type of environment, so like you learned something, that you either liked or didn't like.
So one thing I've always noticed, when talking about school, colleges, I've never really seen occupational therapists. I've never really heard so much about it within schools, especially among the color folks, among African Americans. You don't see a much African American speech therapists or occupational therapists. Maybe we got physical therapists and
Possibly.
mental health therapy. Now there's a division for all these different therapies, but what is your opinion about it reaching out to more diverse group of people?
Yeah.
I mean, now that you're retired and you've been through, the little walks and cracks of it, what do you think could inspire more people, African Americans, brown, black people, to get into the field?
Yeah. I think part of it is that I think they often don't have the opportunity to have it. There is, I had looked up the percentages. It's a very white field. We do have some people that are bilingual, which you need bilingual therapists with the way the country is.
Yes.
We have all different types of languages. A lot of times it's easier to get a Hispanic bilingual speech therapist, but the speech patterns are different, and there are different sounds in different languages. So I think more now, something that we didn't do when I was going through school. I think we now have more subject. Like you can take a class on those more, those that can go like you can, that they're learning a little bit more of that now, the different things. I know, like I had looked up too, like the as far as black goes, the percentage is like 3 to 4% of therapists are black. And honestly, I think part of it is it's the like we need to continue more of the diversity and getting scholarships and whatever, grants, scholarship, whatever that they feel comfortable getting, because we have started in the last probably 10 years. You have to take continuing ed credits to keep your license, and they have done more with diversity and cultural, and like, because there is African American, black, whatever the correct politically correct, like there is they have their own language. There is so you have to decide, like, okay, if I'm working with a child, is it, do they have a language issue, or do they, or is that's their, same thing with, we used to laugh that we work with a variety of areas, and one of the areas is articulation, or the sound production.
Yes.
And so everybody, and most people know it, whether you don't have to be a speech therapist, but Boston has a certain R, and New York and New Jersey has the R, and we have our whatever. Well, I would, if I have a child that I'm working with, and they're from Boston, grew up there, whatever, I'm not going to work on their R. I'm not changing that, because that's not appropriate. That's perfectly fine for them to say their R's that way. So the same thing happens with people of color or Hispanic or any, they think there are certain language, that you
got to change the
right. Because for example, one of the things with a person, a black person, is a lot of times have in Black English and stuff, you don't pronounce the TH.
Okay. Yeah.
You use a T instead of the TH. Again, if I am working with a client, a student, a child, whatever, and I'm not going to correct that. That is not for me to correct, because it is not a speech issue.
Yeah.
It's part of that. You have to so that's important that that depending on the populations that you're working, we a lot of us are not working with just white.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
How do you, if say an Indian student came in with heavy Indian accent, the parents heavy Indian accent, they're learning how to talk, breaking into the school system. Where does the patient come from to handle that?
Well, and part of that too is that you have to we have to decide, okay, how much English are they going to learn, and where in their process is the fact that it's part of their accent, which is okay, or do they not understand? Sometimes they, depending on what their language background is, they can't produce. They're not made. They're not built to make those sounds. They're just not. So you have to decide where it's a delay or a difficulty or something. And sometimes it's having that discussion with the parents, and even sometimes if they're in school or whatever, but having that discussion that we need to wait. It's not something we need to attack right now. We don't need to, therapy maybe not needed at this point. We need to see how they progress. And that's where English as a second language comes in too. We have to see where they are in that process, if that's what you're going to use as your good.
Wow. So now that you've retired, Ms. Barth, and there's so much in you, how much of that do you still take with you, or how much do you put at rest? And say, hey, I'm just not going to do anything.
Yeah. Well, some of that I do that. I read a lot, but it's hard for me that my own children will tease me, because I listen to everybody when they talk. I evaluate people when I go to the movies. It's just in me. I'll be oh, I could fix that. But it just kind of, I right now, a lot of my focus is my grandkids. I have 7, so, and 4.
Do you bring that into with the grandkids?
I do. I'll have to tell you one thing. My one grandson has had trouble with R, but he is now 7, and I wouldn't work on R till close to 8 years of age anyway, because you wait to see if it's going to progress. And just a few months ago, I said to him, I'm like, your R is fine. You got your, and he looked at me like, what are you talking about? You know, like,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
it? You know, yeah, I had a granddaughter who didn't talk till they finally got her speech therapy,
Oh,
that
wow.
she needed that. She just, I mean, she understood everything, whatever, and just was not talking and just needed that little bit of a push. And,
Wow.
you know.
What about I always hear boys are slower talkers. I mean, they take longer to talk than girls.
They can.
Is that have you ran into that during your?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They can be like sometimes I don't like, that's where you have to get into like a discussion with parents too. You know, like you don't want parents comparing one of their children to the other child. Like some boys do talk on time, but they can be slower.
And you talk
Speakers.
about the parents. How important is it for the parents to be a part of this speech therapy session? How important is it? Because I've seen, the parents come, they drop the kid off, and some of them. But for me, it's like I think I would like to see more involvement. I don't know if
Yeah. Well, yes. I think that like at first, like watching like when we were at Schreiber, you had the glass, like they could watch.
Yeah.
And
Schreiber.
and so they do, but you need like once you were like I want them to watch so that then they can help practice at home, but not until I'm sure that they're able to do what I want them to do, because we also don't want to practice it the wrong way.
Right.
Not that a parent can't help. You do want to do that, but
Right.
you also want to make sure that we're following along
Right.
in the same way. And back to Schreiber too, like we did about when you said about the the diversity and everything too.
Yeah.
Schreiber had set up a
Program or
like a grant or
Okay.
whatever at Penn State.
Oh, nice.
For a master's degree for cultural diversity.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's still going
yeah,
on?
I don't know. Like, I don't
Okay.
know.
Maybe it's something that you guys can look into. Check it out.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a way. It would be a way, and it's at the graduate program.
Yeah,
though. So
yeah.
because you have to have a bachelor's degree, so you go for 4 years, and then you have to have a master's degree
Okay.
and do that.
So what words of wisdom and
Oh,
advice
boy.
can you give a young up and coming therapist or somebody who's looking to be like you? Yeah.
Well, I guess like truly follow your dream and think about it. Know that you can't fix everybody. You're going to have some good days and maybe some bad days or more difficult days. Sometimes the children aren't the issue. Sometimes it's learning to be able to work with the parents or the caregivers or that are with the kids. And also make sure that no matter where you work, that the people around you understand what it is that you do.
Yeah, that's
because
important.
not everybody understands. Like I did years ago at school in an elementary school did a presentation to the teachers and explained what I did, and they had no clue. They just thought I worked on R's and S's and
wow.
L's. But
Yeah.
I work on a lot more than that. A therapist.
Yeah. Well, you've made me, because of you, you've made me go deep into the field and find out what it was all about. Because I put everything underneath that one. I didn't know there were so many sections, and which is very important. So, one last thing before we shut down. Now that you've retired in the field, what is some of the changes and things you feel that could get better from where you left off as a therapist?
As a therapist. Well, I guess like there's always new things that come out, and I think we need to look at those things too. Like some of us, we tend to get stuck in our own ruts
Yes.
of doing things, and something new will come out, and
Yes.
not that it's great either,
Right,
or but
right.
I think you have to really have an open mind to a lot of
I like
things,
that.
and
Yeah.
and look at it and then decide for yourself. Is
Yeah.
that something that you
For
can use or not use? And yeah, probably do that.
Wow. Wow. I feel like I just went to college and
There
learned
you
about
go.
therapy.
There you go. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Barb. This was very enlightening.
Great.
You have been watching Shining a Light on Channel 66 here at downtown Lancaster. And I'm Geri McCritty. Thank you for watching.